Hi, everybody. Dan Illman, Matt Bernier. The DRF Bets race of the day for Friday, February the 1st. Race number 8 at the Great Race Place, Santa Anita. We're going 1 mile for an allowance race. It's a nice race and a nice card that you can bet with a DRF Bets account. Sign up at bets.drf.com. Deposit $50. Bet with $200. Let's meet the field for race number 8. You can access free formulator past performances for this race on the Race of the Day event page at DRF.com. Download them, handicap along with us. We'll take the field in post position order, beginning with the number 1, Mongolian Groom. And Matt, Mongolian Groom is a maiden on dirt, but he has done some good work on wet tracks in the past, and we're expecting some precipitation in Southern California over the next few days.
Yeah, it just sounds like big rain is coming through. Friday, it seems like it might be a little bit hit or miss, but depending on who you listen to, if the amount of rain that shows up Thursday sticks around and then obviously into Saturday and Sunday, you're probably going to be dealing with a less than fast track or a wet fast at the very least. That would be my guess. You're right. That definitely gives this horse a little bit of an edge perhaps over some of the other runners. I guess when I just looked at him, his overall body of work, he's not a bad horse, don't get me wrong, but it does feel like when he gets into these sort of restricted allowance type fields, it just feels like he's a little bit overmatched in my opinion at this point. I do wonder if he's going to be better suited at a lower level.
I agree. He kind of just ran around there last time out when beaten by Kyle Moore, who we'll get to in a little bit. He was in a really nice position, saving ground in behind the leaders, but then they ran away from him on the turn and he just couldn't keep up. Maybe he's a cut below the non-winners of one other than right now. The number 2 is Show Me Dilute, who returned off a short layoff last time out as a first-time gelding for Bob Baffert, and I thought he ran okay that day. He was wide on the backstretch. He made a bid going into the turn, and then he finished evenly behind Kyle Moore. His best Beyer speed figure came second off the layoff, and that's the move that Baffert's going to try to employ here.
It's going to be interesting to see. I mean, I thought early on that this horse could actually end up being okay. I actually gave him a chance in the Los Al Futurity way back when, and unfortunately, it just hasn't worked out for one reason or another. He hasn't been able to get through it. You're right. If you want to say that second off the bench, this is when you're going to get the best effort from this horse, I'm not going to argue with anyone there. I'm not totally sold on a horse like this who won his career debut, has ripped off 8 consecutive losses. They gelded him, clearly trying to shake something up. And to be honest with you, he was apparently running on a day, according to Timeform US that day, most recently, that was intensely closer friendly. So I thought he had every opportunity. Maybe he was a little bit short off the bench, but I'm just not a big fan at this point of what this horse is capable of.
He does have a couple of things going for him. I guess it being the other Baffert isn't the worst thing in the world in Southern California. And Timeform US has him on the lead. And as we've seen in Santa Anita over the last week or two, or basically this entire meet, you really want to be on or near the lead. And they do have the 2, Show Me Dilute, on the lead, albeit with a red bar indicating that the pace might be fast. Now, the rains might completely change things. We urge everybody to keep a very close eye on the earlier races at Santa Anita on Friday to see if the bias or track profile is still there. The 3 is Beaumarchais, and Beaumarchais is another horse that I think is cycling into this race the right way. He reminds me a little bit of Rye, the horse that won the Unusual Heat Turf Classic last weekend at Santa Anita, returned off a long layoff in a shorter distance race, wasn't embarrassed, and is now stretching out to a more appropriate distance. Way back when, at the end of 2017, he ran a 90 Beyer speed figure in non-winners of 1.
Yeah, I toyed with picking this horse in here, but the only thing that concerned me a little bit was that red bar. I think you do need to be forwardly placed. It's very clear if you look at any sort of, go back through the charts and take a look at these 2-turn races at Santa Anita, specifically at a mile. But at the same time, if everyone is going to be lining up out front, I still want to be forwardly placed, but I don't want to be dependent on the lead. And Beaumarchais, like it or not, 5 victories lifetime, all 5 of them gate to wire. If you believe the pace projector and the 2 is actually going to be the one that sets the tempo, then perhaps Beaumarchais is up against it. And again, with Pedroza aboard, stretching out from 6.5, I think they're going to be on a send mission. I wonder if this pace ends up being even fast for Santa Anita standards.
The number 4, Major Cabby, eligible for a non-winners of 2 life. His only career victory came in gate to wire faction, and Timeform US doesn't believe he's fast enough to get the lead in this spot. He's just been a little bit of a disappointment since winning his maiden. Last time out, they ran him in an off-the-turf race at Del Mar. He finished right behind a turf horse that came back to win a $50,000 claimer on the grass with an 85 Beyer. They're going to revert to stalking tactics and hope this pace is fast.
Yeah, right now he's tough. He's tough to really make a serious case for. He's just slow right now, and perhaps this level ends up being too much for him. You brought up that winner that came back next out on grass. overall, that field from November the 30th, a little bit of a mixed bag because you've had some horses run well like that horse, and even the runner-up came back. Extraordinary Jerry earned an 85, but then you had the first and third place finishers come back and earn high 60 and low 70 buyers. So don't know how good that field was, and at the end of the day, don't know how good this horse is.
Number 5, Kyle Moore. I think Richard Baltus and the connections deserve a lot of credit here. They claimed this horse for $40,000, and they immediately moved him to the dirt, equipped him with blinkers, and voila, this horse has turned into a really solid dirt runner. Last time out, he finished ahead of a couple of these horses. He was aggressively ridden on the lead, finished a very game second as the 5-2 favorite, and he might be sitting third on the outside of the 2 speeds, getting the jump on the true closers. A good trip is coming for Kyle Moore. He gets some weight off with that apprentice back on.
Yeah, I agree with all that, and that's kind of the reason I'm leaning toward this horse. When you take a look and see, again, from a running style, doesn't have to have the lead. Broke his maiden way back when on turf, sitting off and coming with a run, but he is going to be forwardly placed in here. And you're right, the fact that Baltus immediately moved him to a different surface, immediately put blinkers on him, and this horse jumped up considerably, I just think that that's the hallmark of a great training job. They saw something, they made a change, and ultimately it's all been for the better. And the other thing to keep in mind about that most recent run, I like how game he was. I like what the rider Figueroa did that was over that January 5th main track where they thought, Timeform US thought it was intensely closer friendly. Perhaps he was running against the bias that day. I think he's got a big chance in here.
The 6 Candy Cornell might be a little bit dirtied up for John Sheriffs. Heck, he was favored over Kanthaka in his second lifetime start, and he must have gotten injured in that race because he went away for 10 months. He came back with a solid enough third place finish and then scored in a maiden race last time out for John Sheriffs. I like that Mike Smith retains them out, and when you look at this pedigree, he should be able to stretch out. He's by Candy Ride out of a half-sister to a graded stakes placed runner going 9 furlongs on the turf. Recent buyers are a little bit light, but he does have that 86 from his debut.
You can't overlook the fact that Smith's riding a horse that realistically, when you just look at him, there's no real stakes aspirations right now for a horse like this. Smith only usually rides when he thinks that there's a real chance in here. At face value, I don't really like this horse. I agree with you. You go back to that career debut, you thought there was going to be something there, but keep in mind that horse was 65-1 that day, and it just seems like one thing after another hasn't gone right for this one. He missed nearly 10 months, like you said. I suppose there's a chance stretching out that this is actually what he's wanted all along. I just don't know how short a price I would take on him.
The big name horse in this race, and the likely favorite at post time, is the number 7 Solomini for Bob Baffert. 4 times Grade 1 placed in his career, second in the 2017 Breeders' Cup Juvenile, actually finished ahead of nice horses like McKinsey and Instilled Regard in the Los Al Futurity before being disqualified, was on the trail to the Kentucky Derby with solid efforts at Oaklawn. The Derby didn't work out. The Affirm didn't work out. He went away. He came back in the Malibu going 7 furlongs. I thought he was very wide most of the way, but this is Solomini. He didn't change leads in the stretch. He's probably going to appreciate that last race. Now he's second off the layoff. He's going to appreciate more distance. He's going to appreciate a fast pace. I'm just not sure I want to trust him over a wet track at a short price.
And again, if this track profile continues and continues on with the way that it has been, even with this rain, he's just going to have so much work to do coming from a rallying sort of situation. I agree. He's going to appreciate the pace, but at the end of the day, he's going to have a lot left to do. And you and I talked a little bit before we came on. I think you get to a certain point and you have to look at it and say, maybe he is what he is. Look, it looked like early on he was precocious and he would end up being something significant. And maybe it's still too early to really write him off. But he's 1 for 9 right now. He has never really eclipsed that 93 buyer speed figure that he earned in the Juvenile as well as the Los Al Futurity. I'm starting to wonder how good he actually is.
Let's take a look at our top picks for Friday's race of the day. We're both going to try to upend Solomini. Super Duper Cooper worries me a little bit because, like the one Mongolian groom, he might be a little bit cheap for this level. But I think it's worth noting that Mike McCarthy last time out took blinkers off. They dropped him way down in class, and he was really wide on the backstretch. He came with a good move, and I thought he was going to inhale the winner impression. Timeform US disagrees with me. I thought Speed did very, very well, as it's done at Santa Anita most of the meet, and Super Duper Cooper just couldn't get to him, finishing a solid second. It was an improved performance. If this track comes up wet, his full sister earned an 89 buyer speed figure for Todd Pletcher, winning over a sloppy track. So this is kind of just a play against the favorite. I think Super Duper Cooper's last race, without the blinkers, was an improvement.
I think you can draw some parallels between this horse and Kyle Moore simply from the equipment standpoint. Like you say, that most recent run, I'm going to kind of look at that and say that maybe that is all this horse has wanted. Take the blinkers off. He ran his first 16 times with them on. He was okay, nothing great. All of a sudden, you take him off from a figure standpoint, he jumps up considerably. Maybe that's all he's wanted all along. I agree with you, the concerns about potentially being a little bit cheap for this level, but at the same time, he has a little bit of tactical ability. The outside post is no bargain, short run into the first turn, but you don't really want to be up there contesting the pace, I don't think, if it is as fast as time form seems to suggest and as we think it might be. I picked him second in here. I kind of want to just take a shot, like you say, against Solimini, and I want a horse that can be forward but doesn't have to duel on the front end. I think this horse can fit that bill a little bit. I am a little bit worried about the class, though.
And you've got the best last buyer runner who is not the morning line favorite and who will get the jump over Solimini, turning into the stretch. You like Kyle Moore. Would you take 3-1?
Yeah, I would take 3-1, and I believe he's 5-2 on the line. I got to be honest, I'd probably even take that simply because I really am against Solimini in here. And with the exception of Super Duper Cooper and Beaumarchais, I don't really like anyone. So those are the three horses that I'd be most intrigued with.
And I'm going to take a little stab with Super Duper Cooper. Big step up in class, but I did like the improvement shown without the blinkers last time out. And he's got to be a good price in this field. 8-7-5-2 for me in Friday's DRF Bets Race of the Day. Make sure you get down on all the action at Santa Anita on Friday with a DRF Bets account. Sign up at bets.drf.com, deposit $50, bet with $200, ready, set, bet with DRF Bets. An approximate post time for the 8th at Santa Anita on Friday, 4 o'clock Pacific. Best of luck.